Good morning, boys and girls, and welcome back to reading class. Today we are going to get started on reviewing our vocabulary words and then getting right into science fair, which is our reading lesson for this week. Okay, so let's get started here we're on page 354. If you could please open up your reading books. And it says we're building our robust vocabulary. So our vocabulary words this week, and there's just 6 of them that we're focused on in this passage, is sprinkled. And remember, sprinkled is when you take things and they're little tiny, and a sprinkle is a tiny piece of drops of something that's scattered all over. Expand are things, when you expand them, they get bigger. Erupt is when something erupts, it breaks out of something, like a volcano erupts. Thorough, when something is thorough, you do something in a thorough way, you do it in a very careful way, okay, in a very complete way. Deliberation, that's when something is very thoughtful and maybe a discussion has taken place and you've taken your time in making a decision. And then grainy is something that's really small. It's not smooth, but it has a lot of little pieces. Okay, so that's grainy. Okay, so it's called Science in the Kitchen, and it says Monday, April 24th. My teacher asked us to study science at home while we cooked. Today, my dad helped me bake volcano biscuits. We mixed baking powder, flour, salt, butter, and milk. Then we spooned piles of the mixture onto a baking sheet and then shaped them into cone shapes. Finally, we sprinkled nuts on top and put the baking sheet into the oven. Well, first of all, that's kind of cool because it has like then, next, so it has transition words. It has time-ordered words. Our next paragraph, when the biscuits were done, I saw that they had risen. When the baking powder mixed with the milk, it caused the biscuits to expand. It was fun to imagine that our volcano biscuits could erupt at any time. So we're going to go to the next page. And you'll notice that the first one was Monday and now it's Tuesday. So you can see that this is like a dated journal. Today, Dad and I made a thorough search in a cookbook. After much deliberation, we chose a fudge recipe. We mixed the ingredients and cooked the mixture until its temperature was 234 degrees Fahrenheit. I waited to stir the mixture until it cooled to 110 degrees Fahrenheit. You'll notice that they use a little circle right there to take out the word degrees, and then just a capitalized F for Fahrenheit. If I stirred it too soon, big crystals would form that would make the fudge grainy. Because I waited to stir it, our fudge was tasty and smooth. That fudge looks delicious. I hope you guys are doing some baking with your families and really doing some experimenting in the kitchen while you have this time off from school. So it says your mission this week is to use the vocabulary words in your writing. For example, write about a time when a choice you made needed much deliberation, so that means a lot of thought. Read your sentences to a classmate, whereas you're going to change that classmate to a family member. All right, so we're going to get on with our story. So we are going to be reading a realistic fiction story. It's called The Science Fair. And it is a story with characters and events that like people and events in real life. So we're looking for details that help the reader to make predictions, a plot which starts at the beginning, and that starts with the problem and all the events that lead to the solution. All right, so we have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And as you're reading, you want to monitor your comprehension. So read ahead. If something doesn't make sense to you as you read, then you go back and you reread it again. All right, so here's our first picture of our story on page 357, and it's called The Science Fair. Make it a little smaller so you guys can see the whole picture there. All right, I hope you have your books open. So we have Miss Babbitt's third grade class is having a science fair. Beanie is a girl in the class who doesn't like science. Her partner, Kevin Gates, is good at science. He came up with 2 experiments to show that heat makes liquids and gases expand or get bigger. Beanie is proud of herself for figuring out how to show that solids also expand when they are heated. But Beanie is worried that their experiment will not get a good grade. Some of the other students are making glittery posters. Others are going to play music. Kevin insists that all they need is good science. How can they compete without fancy props? So you want to think to yourself, how do you think that Kevin will feel at the science fair? Do you think he's going to be calm and relaxed, or do you think he's going to be uptight? And then what details help you to predict this? So you want to go and you want to find how do you think Kevin will feel? So you're looking for Kevin in here. Kevin Gates is good at science. He came up with 2 experiments to show that heat makes liquids and gases expand or get bigger. Okay? So you want to keep going and you want to think Kevin insists that all they need is good science. So hopefully you came up with that Kevin, because he insists that all they need is good science and he's good at science, he's figuring that, you know what, I can be calm about this because we've got some really great science experiments. So we're going to go on to the next page. I hope you're following along in your book. So you can look at that picture down below and look at her face, and hopefully it will give you some clues. On the day of the science fair, I woke up early before the alarm went off. I lay in bed hugging Jingle Bell and worrying. So hopefully when you hear the I, you know whose perspective is being told, and it's in first person. What if our project is the worst one there? I said to Jingle Bell. What if I mess up when I do my part for the judge? What if the judge laughs when they walk away from our table? What if Miss Babbitt told us that she liked our project just to be nice? Miss Babbitt would do something like that. Once I heard my dad tell my mom that Miss Babbitt does a good job of building self-esteem. When I asked him what that meant, he says she works hard to make us kids feel good about ourselves. Jingle Bell understood that there was a lot to worry about. So we already know whose point of view is being told, and it's Beanie. And then what is Beanie like? Well, think about all the clues that you're learning about Beanie, like how she's talking to her stuffed animal there. So hopefully you're seeing that she wants to do well in school, but she also worries, and she's not very confident about how she's going to do in the science fair. So then you can see on the next page, 360 is just them riding on the bus. And then we move on over to page 361. And it says, on the bus that morning, I saw Carol Ann and Stacy were dressed alike. Carol Ann and Stacy didn't seem worried. They were talking nonstop about how much fun the science fair was going to be. We're handing out rock candy to everyone who comes to see our project, Carol Ann said. I bet we win first prize. Well, maybe second, said Stacy. The volcano project sounds really great. Nathaniel and Montel's project was about how volcanoes erupt. They were going to build a volcano out of paper mache and put something inside that would get all bubbly like a volcano erupting. Stacy said to me, your project is good too, but I knew she was just doing self-esteem on me. After lunch, we went into the gym. There were 3 rows of tables and 4 tables in each row set up at one end of the gym. You have a half hour to set up your projects, Miss Babbitt said, and have fun, she added. I felt like throwing up. So, what gimmicks will Carol Ann and Stacy use to get people to go over and like their projects? So you want to go back up and you'll see right up here what Carol Ann and Stacy. So They dressed alike and they're handing out rock candy. So right up here, we're handing out rock candy to everyone. And right up here, you can see they're dressed alike. Remember, you always want to go back into your reading, into the story, and find the answers. So how does Beanie feel when she thinks that Stacy is doing self-esteem on her? So right here, she was just doing self-esteem on me. So remember, the dad told her about how her teacher, Miss Babbitt, helps kids with self-esteem. And so maybe she's feeling a little sad because she thinks that Stacy is only trying to make her feel good about her project and really doesn't think her project is any good. So she has very low self-esteem right now. And what makes Beanie feel like throwing up? And that's right down here. So you want to use all the clues up here and from the previous pages of what do you think she wants to throw up. Miss Babbitt says have fun, but Beanie right here is so worried that she just can't seem to enjoy the science fair. She's too upset about it. So then we move on over and we see here gas, liquid, and solids get bigger when they're heated up. It's not magic, it's science. So gases, liquids, and solids. So think about that in your mind. They get bigger when they're heated up. And if you watch some of those science experiments that the Science Sisters did that I put on your last couple Thursday and Fridays Google Classroom, they actually are heating up liquids and you can actually see that. So the experiment is heat makes things get bigger, gas, liquid, and solid. They do a liquid in the science experiment. And you have liquid here, and then with the heat lamp. Then you have a gas with the heat lamp. And then you have a solid with the heat lamp. So they have three different examples. They have the gas, the liquids, and the solids. I have a nice poster that explains it. So you're going to turn the page. And it says, Kevin and I covered our table with a white tablecloth that my mom let us use. It had a big gravy stain in the middle, but she said we could just set something on top of the stain so it wouldn't show. We laid out our stuff in a sign. I taped my posters to the front of the table. When we were finished setting up, I walked around the gym to see what the other teams were doing, and when I saw the volcano, I ran back to our table. Kevin, you should see the volcano. It's huge. Why didn't we think of a volcano? Before Kevin could say anything, I ran off to look at other projects. Then went back to report to Kevin. Carol Ann and Stacy have streamers around their table, the edge of their table. Why didn't we think of that? Should I call my mom and ask if she could run out and buy us some streamers? She'd do it. I know she would. Do you think we need streamers? Oh, I'm sorry. Kevin says we don't need streamers. So if you think about what are Beanie and Kevin proving in their project, that heat makes things bigger. Why does Beanie want to call her mother? So we see here because she keeps going back and she really thinks that they need streamers to put around the edge of their table. And then a prediction. So take what you've read already and what you know, and I want you to kind of infer and make a prediction as to what you think is going to happen. Do you think that Beanie will call her mother? Or do you think she's going to listen to Kevin? So we'll find out. All right, so I left our table again, then went back with more news. Manuel and Boomer are doing a planet project and they have a black tablecloth with stars all over it. Why didn't we use the cool tablecloth instead of this dumb white one with a gravy stain on it? You need to chill, said Kevin. Forget about what other people are doing and but before Kevin could finish, I ran off again. And in a minute, I was back. Linda and Elaine have bubbles for their project. Big ones, I said. Out of breath, everyone loves bubbles. Why didn't we do bubbles? Beanie, he said. Could you go and get some paper towels just in case the red water comes up to the top of the straw and runs over? So there you can see all the kids setting up the science fair. All right, so what does Kevin want Beanie to go and get and why? So if you look back, could you go and get some paper towels in case the red water runs over? So hopefully you're seeing the answer there. Then I noticed the crowd of kids around the table next to ours. I peeked over and it was Shalita and Jessica's project. They had a bunch of big balloons at their table and a plate sprinkled with black pepper. Oh no, I said to Kevin. Look at all those balloons. Balloons are even better than bubbles. How could we only have one itsy bitsy one on our project? Shalita rubbed a balloon on her arm and then held the balloon a few inches above the plate of pepper. The pepper jumped right off the table onto the balloon. That happens because of static electricity, Shalita explained. Everyone was like, wow. One kid even said, that's a winner. My stomach started to hurt. I told Kevin I had to go to Mrs. Fancinelli's office to lie down. Mrs. Fancinelli is the school nurse. She has Ranger Rick magazines that we can look at while we try to feel better. If I'm not back by the time it's our turn, you just go ahead without me, I said. I almost got away, but Kevin grabbed my arm. Paper towels, he said. All right, so why is Beanie growing more and more upset? Well, if you look up here, you can see that she's comparing her project to their project, and she's thinking that hers needs more things to, more bells and whistles and more gimmicks to pull people in. Turn the page here. I hope you're turning the page. We're on page 366. See if you can see it all. Parents started to come into the gym and walk from table to table. Teachers from our school brought their classes to see the projects too. When I saw my mom and dad, I waved to them, and they came over to wish us luck. Kevin said his mom was going to try to get off work early and come, but even though he kept looking towards the door and looking all around the gym, I don't think he saw her. Then the judges showed up and went from table to table. I started to bite my nails. When they got to the balloon table, I knew we were next. My knees got wobbly. As the judges walked around our table, Kevin took one last look towards the gym door. He started waving. She made it, he said. I looked towards the door and saw a woman coming into the gym. She looked out of breath, like she had been running. Mrs. Shanner, I said. Hi, Beanie and Kevin. What do we have here? We have a project to show that heat makes things expand or get bigger, Kevin said. Then he poked me with his elbow and I said, we will now show how heat makes gases expand. Then Kevin did the experiment with the balloon on the bottom and explained everything he was doing when he was doing it. We'll go to our next page. Next, I said, we will now show how heat makes liquids expand. Kevin did the bottle and straw experiment and explained it. We did not need paper towels. The red water didn't come up too high, just high enough. Then it was Kevin's turn to talk. He said, we will now show how heat makes solids expand. This time I did the experiment, the one with the nail in the eye. When we were finished, Mr. Shannon said, the judges wrote stuff on clipboards and asked us a few questions. They shook our hands and moved on to the next table. Why weren't they smiling when they shook our hands? I asked Kevin. Why didn't they say wow when the water came up the straw? Why didn't Mr. Shanner say Or why did Mr. Shanner say What were they writing on their clipboards? Kevin sat down and smiled. We did a good job, he said. All right, so how does the author show that Beanie is nervous? So if you go right back one page to 66, right here, she started to bite her nails and her knees got wobbly. That's how you can tell. Those are the clues that let you know that she was really starting to feel nervous. And do you think that Kevin will be proved right that they did a good job? Let's find out. All right. So while they were waiting for the judges to make their decisions, I went over to Carol Ann and Stacy's table and asked how their presentations went. Well, said Carol Ann, I think the judges liked our outfits and our necklaces. But they told us to turn off the music so that they could hear us better. Plus, we were supposed to start growing the crystals a few days ago, only we forgot to read the instructions on the box. We didn't do it till this morning, so the crystals are kind of small. I looked at the fishbowl of water on their table. It had a string going through the water, and the crystals were supposed to be growing on the string, but all I could see was a little bit of pink grainy stuff on one part of the string. And Stacy added, Boomer's mom broke a tooth eating our rock candy. Oh no, how did yours go? Carol Ann asked me. Okay, I guess. The judges came back to the gym. We all went back to our tables. I crossed my fingers. Miss Kowalski said, we were very impressed with the efforts of all of the students, and we hope that they are proud of themselves as we are of them. So before we go off of this page, did Beanie have anything to worry about with Stacy and Carol Ann's project? And so it's why do you think they might not have had anything to worry about? So if you kind of look up here, you'll see that they probably didn't have a lot to worry about with their project because they didn't get prepared and they tried to make it up with costumes and loud music. And remember, it's a science fair. It's not a fashion fair. So they wanted to see science. So I don't think their costumes are going to make it into the finals. So then we're going to go on to the next page. And it says, then Mr. Shanner said, it was hard for us to choose the three best, but after much deliberation, we have chosen for third place the static electricity experiment. It was creative and educational. Shalita and Jessica screamed. My only hope had been third place. I sighed. I uncrossed my fingers and clapped as they went up to get their certificate and third place ribbons. Next, Miss Kowalski gave the second place award, and it went to the volcano project. Nathaniel and Montrell's volcano was impressive, she said, but it was their charts and their explanation of what causes a volcano to erupt that we especially liked. Those were thorough and easy to understand. After the clapping, Mr. Shanner coughed and then said, now for the first place project. We felt the winning project was a fine example of real science. It was organized, clear, and complete. I knew we wouldn't get first place. I started reciting the 7 times tables in my head just to keep myself from crying. But right at the 7 times 4, Kevin started pushing me from out behind the table. All right, so before we move past this, so did Kevin and Beanie's project win? Do you think they won? Because Kevin's pushing, so maybe. See what happened. Go, he said. We won. We what? We won. I screamed and jumped up and down. I couldn't believe it. Kevin and I each got a certificate and a blue ribbon that had first place science fair stamped on it in gold letters. Miss Babbitt hugged us. Then she whispered in my ear, I knew you could make it work. My mom and dad came up and hugged us. So did Kevin's mom. Thanks for coming, I heard Kevin say to her. I wouldn't have missed it for anything. I'm just so sorry I was late, she said. Then his mom pulled a camera out of her purse. Say cheeseburger, she told Kevin and me. Aw, Mom, come on, Kevin said, but he smiled. So definitely they did win. The prediction was correct. They were prepared and they presented their project very well. All right, so let's go over here to our comprehension questions. Why do you think Beanie? What do you think Beanie will do the next time she enters a science fair? So definitely continue to be prepared and to be positive, hopefully, as she presents. Why are Carol Ann and Stacy's crystals so small? Well, we know why they're so small. They did not get prepared when they should have. They only started that morning. Do you think that Beanie and Kevin would win first place? Why or why not? Did you guys think that they were going to win? I thought they were going to win. I thought they were very well prepared. And how can you tell that the author thinks the contest of a science experiment is more important than decorations? So that one was because science experiments is what they were looking for. They were not looking for decorations, and the actual judges let them know that at the end when they called them up and said that, you know what, you had everything, it was organized, the presentation was science driven. And then we're not going to do this, but you can just think about this. What do you think Beanie learned from doing the science experiment? Give examples from the story to support your answer. So one thing I would say that she learned was the importance of science in the science fair. Because Mr. Shaner said that what they were looking for was science and not costumes and not decorations. They were looking for the actual meat and potatoes of the science lesson. All right, so we're going to go over to meet the author. You guys can read about the author because remember, authors, they don't start out as grown-up authors. They start out as kids. And the same with illustrators. And we know we have quite a few amazing drawers and illustrators in room 303. And we look forward to, you know what, that would be so cool. If anybody wanted to draw, illustrate a picture that you could add on to this science fair. And then you could take a picture, and I don't know if you can post on the stream part of our Google Classroom, but that would be kind of cool if you wanted to share some pictures. I know Lily has shared some horse pictures and some dog pictures. So if you guys ever want to take some pictures and share them with your classmates, the stream part would be a really great place for you to do that.